Thank you again for joining me for another video. Um, I always say I'm not sure how to get rid of this. How do you get rid of the because it just sounds like you don't know what you're gonna say. But I do know what I'm gonna say. So thank you for joining me. Please hang around. I'm gonna look at the subject of building a strong team. I've got just three things that I believe that are very useful when you are trying to build a team. It doesn't matter whether you're in a workplace or you are in the community, you're working as a volunteer. If you're working with a group of people and you are responsible to lead those people, then it is your responsibility to then build a strong team out of those individuals. What are the benefits of building a strong team? Well, amongst them is you want to build a team that is successful in their tasks. You want to build a team that is, um, you know, has individuals that are thriving. You want to build a team that is able to adapt to different circumstances, different seasons, a team that is resilient. That means they can withstand the challenges of whatever field that you are in. This is a team that is not necessarily stuck in the past, but they are growing with the organization, they are growing with the environment where they're in, and they're looking forward to the future that is, that the organization is anticipating. And so that is a strong team. Now, nobody wants to be in a team that is losing, or a team that is not united, or a team that is not un- a team that is not united behind the vision of the organization. Also, obviously, this is the idea behind the session is that everybody wants a strong team. Everybody desires to have a strong team. So now, how do you build a strong team? Now, the first thing that you can do is to bring in the right people. The right people. Who are the right people? It's not the people that are, obviously, I want to have in my team people that I have a connection with. There's some chemistry, there's friendship. It's easy to build friendship. People that I prefer, people that are like me. But those are some of the things everyone wants to have. But no, those, as much as they are helpful to building a strong team, but when you're saying the right people, it goes beyond the chemistry and the friendship, or the gelling. It goes beyond that. You still want, because the strong team is the winning team, so you want to find people that have the right set of skills of what you are doing as a team. So if you are a team of writers, you want people that are good writers in your team. If you are a team it's a team of creatives, maybe you are a team of graphic designers, you don't want amateurs. You don't want people that are not necessarily good at what they do. So you want people that have experience, that have adequate skills, so that they succeed. Obviously, there are points where you allow people to come in your team and have them grow within your organization. So here, having the right set of skills, it could also be you're seeing potential with this person. So it's the right person because of maybe the potential that you are seeing. Obviously, you also want people that are in the right season of their lives. Now, if the work that you're doing demands people to travel, to go places, maybe to live away from home, and you have someone who has just had a child, and you're putting a demand to them, and you're putting them in a position where they need to choose whether they need to be with their child or with the work that they do. If there's any pressure, obviously there's a level of sacrifice in every position, but if someone is in a different space of their lives, that's why it's easier for someone perhaps who does not have a family to always be away from home, because they're single, they don't have a family to look after. Perhaps the work that they do causes them to travel in and out of the country. If that person is perhaps is not in a position to travel, that means it's not the right season of their lives. They might be the person with the right skills, but maybe it's not the right season of their lives. Perhaps someone, is dealing with a chronic disease. Now, I'm not saying people must be excluded in opportunities because of sickness. I'm just simply saying sometimes jobs demand a huge sacrifice, an unprecedented sacrifice on the individuals, only to discover that they're only bringing people, and it's not the right time in their lives. It's not the right season of their lives. They're not in a position to make and meet those demands. And so you also want to look at someone who has the right attitudes towards the organization and what it does. A great example of this is I cannot, obviously, I don't know, some of my ethical foundation are literally based on my faith. And so if now I work in an organization that does things that are contrary to my faith or to my values, my attitude towards the organization might just not be as I would want it. Sometimes I would hate what I'm doing, and I would not do it appropriately because it comes against my values. Now, do we discriminate and say because you don't believe in this, you're not going to come to my team? But these are the things that you have to look at before you bring someone. Will that someone have a problem with this? you know um I remember when one of the jobs that I had, which I loved dearly, was working in an institution where we needed to speak about sex, speak about how to protect yourself during sexual acts. Now, let me tell you, that was hard for me. Not because I didn't want to do it and I didn't think it was important, but at that time, I was working in an organization where it involved handling preteens, and some of the things that we had to teach them were around sex. This was an HIV prevention program that worked with preteens um, up to when they turn about 15, 16 years. It would follow them up for 5 years, and it would help them, guide them. It would link them up with these youth workers who were like their mentors through the period of 5 years so that they change behavior. Now, my work was important, and like a young mom, a fairly young mom. I was also gonna be raising preteens in the next like three years from that time, and so I had to learn to be able to separate my home anxieties, my belief system that brought anxiety for me to do those things. Let's say I was rigid, I wouldn't have had the right attitudes toward what the organization was doing and what I was doing at that time. And so it's important to check the people that you're bringing in. Do they believe in what you are doing? Do they trust your intentions with your work? Because if they don't, and they thinking you are harming instead of helping, if they thinking you're not making people's lives better, then they're going to be resentful, and those are not the people you want in your team. Who are the good fit in a bigger spectrum of things? You get the people that don't only just focus, who have narrow eyes to what they do, but you want people who can think bigger than what they're doing. Because if you make a mistake in a workplace and you cannot understand the impact of the other, of what your mistake would have in another areas of the organization, it simply says you are very narrow in your thinking, in your working of things. an individual that is not able to weigh the consequences of their actions based on the impact they have in the organization, that person has a narrow view of what they're doing. And so it is hard to work with someone like that because consistently they would just miss, the mark. And so obviously, having said all of what I've said, you have to be mindful that while you are checking all these things, you're mindful that you don't use your 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 lenses to discriminate against gender, age, race. um, it's very easy when you're using what I've told you just now. It's very easy to then um, spin everything and go to the end of the spectrum. It doesn't mean what I've just said. It doesn't mean that if someone is in the childbearing stage, you don't have them in your team. There's better ways to handle, um, um, you know, new moms. There's, people that are just starting out in having families, who can no longer travel as they used to. Now they have a family to look after. And it's another thing when you have someone with maybe you want the skills, and it's all it's one gender that has all these skills. Now it doesn't mean that you're gonna have all men in your team or all women in your team. You have to be diverse in you looking for talent. You have to be diverse in your thinking. You have to broaden your spectrum so that you are not limited by all these um, prejudices that we already have in our communities. And so get the right people in. Get the right people in. You can add as many things as you like in this list, but I know the right skill set is helpful to make sure that your team is successful. It's important to have people that are in the right season of their lives. It's the attitude. I can't tell you how disappointed I get when I visit organizations or I meet people that work for organizations and they have nothing good to say about their organization. They have absolutely nothing to say about their bosses, their work, the whole organization. You have to get it informs how they do their work. When the attitude is right, it's easier to get work done. So find people that love what you are doing. That second thing, I think we exhausted the first point. The second thing, get the right people into the right positions. Now, this comes from the idea that sometimes you can get the right people in, but you can place them in wrong places. I don't know why is it so hard for people to be shuffled around until they are put in the right positions in organization. I don't know. Fine, we employed you as, the finance person, but guess what? Maybe you are the most creative person in the room. Perhaps you don't even need to be at finance. You need to be in our creative room. I think we need to find courage in companies or organizations. We need to find courage to see people, see people for who they are and their strengths and their abilities, and not be afraid to say, actually, I know that I called you for this, but I think you're better suited here. Be in conversation with people. Where are you best suited? And people can move around because we want to maximize people's talents. We want to maximize the time that they spend here. So this is the point I'm making. Being in the wrong position causes frustration. It causes resentment and it causes conflict within the team. When someone is a misfit, it doesn't gel. But it doesn't always mean that as someone is not gelling, it means that they're not the right person to be in the team. Maybe it's just the position. Being in the right position, on the other hand, sets the team for success. Oh man, but get the right person in the wrong place. It's the same as getting the wrong person. And so make sure that you recruit people with the right skills and you place them in the right positions. I've seen people that are good administratively being put in creative spaces and they get frustrated. Obviously, people are looking for jobs, people are applying for jobs, they need jobs. And sometimes they do the sacrifice of landing jobs that they don't prefer. And so, as someone who is responsible to build a team, it is your job to help them find themselves in the right positions. And so, I've said in interviews, and the panel would say, actually, this person is right for the other job that we haven't even started the interviews for. And so don't be rigid, don't be rigid just because someone didn't complete and the position is closed. If they are the right fit, place them. It's good for your organization. Place them in the right positions. you know you know Go talk to someone if they're right fit and they're not noticing, or they're, help them. Don't try to convince them. Get them into the right space, expose them, let them come visit, let them, scout for good talent, have an eye for people, try and describe this position, before the person lands up there. And also, I've seen people who do not have a look. I've seen people who do not have the look for the job, but having having them in those places and they thrive. This comes from a place now where you've had someone come in and they're not looking outwardly. They don't look like a person who can be a creative, but they are creative, so don't judge the book by its cover. Don't think that a person who has charisma can now be in the creative space. Maybe they're just salespeople. Maybe they can't create anything. So don't think a person has charmed you in an interview, placing them in a position to be a creative. They would actually solve. They might just be, get frustrated with that position. And so be careful what you do and where you place people. Don't just have this rigid idea and just stick to that. Be flexible. Now you've hired this person as a junior, but they have this capacity. If people's capacities are not being used, they become stale and they become frustrated and they become resentful in the team, and that's not good for the team. That point, set the team up for success. Now, I love this part. I love it because sometimes we think there's nothing we can do if somebody, is not able to do something, but there is. If you are a leader, if you're leading a team, you can set people up for success. It has to be them that fail, not you. So create a clear and interactive job description for your team members. The same goes for volunteers. People need to know when they come to your organization to volunteer, what are they doing? How do they do it? When do they do it? So set clear job descriptions for people. And your just description, this vague language, be specific. Sometimes under communicating is the same as not communicating. And I mean, if you over communicate, so what? At least you are clear and you are precise. Obviously, we don't want job descriptions that like a book because you want to explain every word, every sentence. No, I'm not saying overcompensate or overdo something. I'm just simply saying don't give your team members job descriptions that are generic. Is their job generic? No, it's not. They're not generic. So it has to be as practical as possible. Set smart goals and clear SOPs. There's nothing as sad as an organization that has policies that nobody can read because they're just written in this language, and you can see this is just generic. It was taken from somewhere and it was just a situation of cut and paste. It wasn't speaking to the people that are here, you know. And so try and be as open, as clear as you can in your goals, you know. Don't be vague. If you're giving people a, you have to complete the target. What target? No, make 3 sales every, you know, daily, Monday to Friday. That's specific, you know. Don't let people figure it out as they go. That's not fair. And people need to be trained for their job descriptions. When you do your orientation, make sure that people are trained. I know that sometimes when we have received good talent. Good talent is good, and you know, is good. But don't assume that people know what to do when they come to your organization. Just always assume they don't know until they tell you this. I get this, you know. And also, if you are, you know, coming to a new organization, even if you know, be humble enough to listen to the people who are trying to orientate you. There's nothing as frustrating and as someone orientating the Mr. or Mrs. Know It All. Oh my God. There's no time to go back 6 months later to come and explain to you what you should have listened to me about when you came. And so be humble enough to say, okay, I know that I'm the best. And this company or this organization brought me here. I am the best. Just sit, listen through when they are giving you your orientation and they're explaining their goals and their policies and everything. And so when you are setting up your team for success, you don't just assume people would know. I remember, now I know this example might not be relevant, but I think it is. I've had help in the house in different seasons of our lives. And I remember in particular, there's one lady came as a teenager to my house. I think she was probably 19. And the girl struggled to do everything, like everything. Well, obviously, she didn't have experience in working in a home. So I was obviously, I will speak well of myself. I was patient. But I remember the frustration I had. I remember asking her, don't you just know how to sweep the floor? Just simple thing like sweeping the floor. Like lift up everything that's on your way, go to the corner, sweep, dust, the edges of the wall, make sure there's no dust that's left in the corner where the broom cannot reach, things like that. You don't just assume. So when you orientate someone, you pretend like they don't have experience. Another lady that had, lived with another family for years. I came and I remember asking her, Candy, what were you doing in this other family? Because I'm not understanding you. I shouldn't be teaching you this in this and that. I'm frustrated because I don't feel like I need to be telling you this. But bottom line is, if I was careful to orientate and to prepare her, I should have explained every single thing and how I prefer things to be done. And so, yeah, set smile. Okay, I know I deviated a bit, but I think that example makes sense. Set milestones leading to the ultimate mission. Team members get frustrated with massive things. So don't try make them visualize the big thing, but also try and bring it down to where they are, to step number one. And they shouldn't be waiting until the end of the year to see the great things they have done. Set milestones that they can consistently look at and be happy about. You can set milestones per week, per month, per quarter. Do things that make your team enjoy being here because they can see that they are winning. Provide relevant and adequate training. As I said, don't just assume that people know. Even when they know, spend time talking, finding out what they know, and then bridge the gaps that you may find. They provide necessary equipment and expected tasks, and provide support. If a person needs, protective gear, provide them that. If they need equipment to do this task, don't just, frustrate them by not giving them, the equipment, yet you've given them the task, and you expect them to complete the task, yet you are not giving them all the equipment. You are expecting them to finish the task on a computer, yet a team of 5 is sharing one computer, and you're giving them impossible deadlines. And so make sure that you've provided adequate equipment, adequate where there needs to be budget. Put a budget, and make means where there is a shortage of budget, things like that. And provide meaningful incentives, salaries, things like that, commissions, things like that. People need, obviously, our economy, things have been tough for everyone. And people have these demands on them that require money and resources. And so I like it when managers and supervisors become creative. If the company cannot provide and pay people for overtime, compensate with time. You know, let people take days off to compensate. Don't just pretend like you don't know that you've made them to work overtime. That's creepy, and that's very irresponsible and disrespectful over people. So don't make demands that should be compensated, that you're not willing to compensate, and just keep saying it's the management. No, if you're a supervisor, make a plan. If you're a manager, make a plan for your team, so that they know you are sensitive, you are respectful of them. It causes your team to win. In summary, what I've said, 3 secrets: get the right people in, get the right people into the right positions, and set up your team for success. When people know that they're valued, when people know that they're being provided for in the workspace, they get to thrive. Your team gets to thrive. Obviously, another person would say, "Ooh, people." Well, there's many stories, and those stories are fair. But bottom line, you have to make right. Don't say because you have done right and people have not been responsive, you're not going to continue doing right. You still need to do right in spite of how people respond or receive what you have been doing. If you want to build a strong team, these things work. These things work. You failed on the other team. Guess what? On the other team, don't bring the attitude of the other team here. Make sure that you start afresh with a new team. Start afresh. Learn, grow as a manager also. Learn the things that you didn't do right on the previous team, and incorporate new things, new strategies with your team. At the end of the day, when your team wins, you win. If you find this helpful, don't hesitate to contact me. I am happy to customize training so that at the end of the day, you win. Thank you. Bye bye.